you'll just put your hand over your eyes and open your eyes. I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. Now over your ears, and I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. Now over your heart, just extend out your arms. I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. The spiritual truth that I'm working with is the same one I've been working with for the last couple of weeks, and that is that principle is never bound by precedent. Right from the words of our founder, Ernest Holmes, principle is never bound by precedent. And what that means is that your mistakes in the past do not need to limit your future. They don't need, now they can if you want them to. But your mistakes in the past do not need to limit your future. So because here's the thing, God does not deal in yesterday. God only deals in today. If there's nothing else that you get this morning, get that. God does not deal in yesterdays. God only deals in right now, in today. And it's imperative that we get that at a deep level, because here's what happens. When we get so bogged down in our past mistakes, we eventually, over time, will stop reaching for a future that's worthy of us. And you are worthy of the brightest future you can conjure up. So it's critical that we get this. So we're doing a series, this is the end of it, the four-week series on what I'm calling divine do-overs, with a subtitle is, if you want this time and next time to be better than last time, then we have to do something different. If you want this time and next time not to be like last time, we can't do it in the same way that we've all done it in the past. It's based on some work by a pastor in the South called Andy Stanley. Because here's the thing, most of us, if we were to look at our life, we would say, yeah, I could use a do-over. I could use a do-over in treating my body differently and actually exercising. I could use a do-over in not running my credit card up until I'm biting my nails all the time. I could do do-over in a job situation that wasn't very successful for me last time. Wasn't my fault, but it wasn't very successful, and I could actually use a do-over. I could use a do-over in the way I'm parenting my young kids. Most of us could find some place in which we need to do a do-over. But here's what happens when we want a do-over. We tend to jump right in and do exactly what we did the last time. And our work is to stop, take a pause, hit the pause button for a minute and say, you know what? I want to do this differently. We said the first week, it's interesting that we learn more from our mistakes on things that don't matter. We learn that quickly than we learn from our mistakes that do matter. For instance, if somebody says, hey, there's a great cereal out. It's a great new healthy green cereal. Go buy that cereal. It tastes great. And you go out and buy it. Yeah, I'd wrinkle my nose up too. If you go out and you buy the cereal, it tastes terrible. You don't feel any better. You keep shoving it in. It doesn't feel any better. You don't buy it anymore. You don't buy a second box. You learn from mistakes on things that matter least. Things that matter most. Marriages, finances, careers, relationships with our adult children. We often don't figure out how to do that. We've learned those lessons least. Well, the first week we talked about 3 myths, and I'm going to go run over these quickly because we have to get these. And if you're just joining us today, you can catch up. You have to get these 3 myths that we often operate under. They're assumptions. The first myth is the experience myth. I've had experience in this area, so I'm going to do better next time. And what do we say? Experience doesn't make us wiser, it makes us older. That's what it does, makes us older. Now, thought out experience, reviewed experience can make us wiser, but experience itself doesn't make us any wiser. The second myth is the know better myth. I know better, and so I'll do better. Not necessarily, Rafe says, and he's right. You know, how many of us, I know this for myself, thank God Donna came into my life, because I hate getting my car serviced. I hate paying that money. Oh, I just hate it. And so I just go until my car dies. It just dies. I know better, but I don't do better. The third myth we have, and the one that's the most dangerous, is the time myth. And that myth is the one that says, I got to hurry. I'm not getting any younger. All the good men or women or whatever, jobs, whatever, they're going. I've got to get in there and get mine right now. It's the very time when we need to hit the pause button and say, no, I need to sit here and be with the Spirit within me and feel what my next step is. From there, we went the next week to 3 spiritual practices that we must do in order to have a divine do-over. Now, you can have a do-over, but in order to have a divine do-over. You can have a do-over, but in order to make this time and next time not like last time, you've got to do it. You've got to have these 3 spiritual practices. The first one was own it. You got to own your own part of whatever failure you had, your own part of the pie. And we said that part of the pie might be really tiny, a tiny part of the pie. So it might only be this much is what yours is, okay? But you got to own that part of the blame. We don't like to do that because we love this part. This part gives us story to tell. We love to tell that story, what they did and how they did it. It's our good leisure activity, really. It's very inexpensive. And we love to do it. And we do it a lot. But we said with own it, we've got to make our mantra, what is my part? What is my part? What is my part? So with every so-called failure we've got going on, we have at least a little part. And we have to learn how to ask that question. What is our part? Because we cannot blame our way into a better future. You can blame your way into a future, but you cannot blame your way into a better future. The second spiritual practice that we talked about was rethink it. First one is own it, rethink it. And the rethink it is, we talked about there is a question that all of us ask, and we often ask it rhetorically, we often ask it with humor, and it was, what was I thinking? Well, the truth of the matter is that question is not rhetorical. It has an answer, and it must be answered. In order to have a divine do-over, when you ask the question, what was I thinking? Know that it has an answer, and you need to find the answer. So those are all in the bookstore on CDs, or we're going to make a series of it, of this. So we're getting today to the last one, which is release it. We have to begin to release it. Now, here's the thing. For every mistake we have, this is the whole amount of blame right here. This is the blame. The whole thing is the blame. Okay? We've talked already about what we need to do. We need to make peace with our peace. Okay? Now, we have to begin to work with this whole thing. See? This is why your job didn't work last time, the whole thing. Why your marriage didn't work last time, why your finances aren't working last time. This is the thing. We work with our part, and here's the truth of the matter is, a lot of times, it may not be this small, but a lot of times we don't have a whole big part. A lot of times, I heard a story this week in which this woman had a very tiny part in this. And the truth is that the supervisor really had this much or more, betraying the person, not telling the truth, going behind her back, doing all kinds of things, telling lies. That was her part. So it does exist, these situations in which that isn't our part. But here's the thing. Even if their part is this much, even if that's their part, you have to deal with it. You have to deal with their part. Your part you have to own. Their part you have to deal with. Because if you don't, see, remember last week we said, if you don't deal with this part, then what happens is you begin to smuggle your bad habits into your future. Well, if you don't deal with this, you're letting those other people smuggle their bad habits into your future in this life. So here's the thing we want to do. We want to ask this question. And this is the question. How far into the future are you willing to carry angst of your past? How far into your future are you willing to carry all of this into your future? Are you willing to let the people who mistreated you go into your future? How long? How long are you willing to let the people who betrayed you, abandoned you, influence your future? Get your calendars out. Make a decision. I'm willing to let them misuse me until I retire. I'm only letting them misuse me for another 6 months. I'm only going to let them misuse me until my next marriage blows up. How long are you willing to let all of this influence where you're going? Maybe until you retire. How long are you willing to let other people's issues begin to influence your future? You know, when I was in about, I don't know what grade I was in, but I made a terrible mistake on something. I don't even remember what it was. It's buried so deep. And some of you have had that situation too, where the teacher stood you up in front of the class and made fun of you. Maybe you were in the 5th grade. Maybe you were in the 10th grade. I don't know what grade you were in. But so many, sophomore, okay, so many of us have had that experience. Or maybe it was a football coach or a baseball coach who chose to make fun of you. And at that moment, you decided you weren't a worthy person. How long are you willing to let that teacher, that coach, influence your future? How long are you willing to let your mother issues, their mother issues, or their father issues influence you? Those of you who have positions of any kind of authority at all, supervisors, teachers, anybody, any kind of authority, you know there's a certain amount of the population who are always going to fight against you because they haven't dealt with their own father or their own mother. And so they're just going to keep pushing. How long? How long do you let them define what your future is all about? If you want next time and this time to be better than last time, you have to fully deal with it. Have you ever met anybody who is absolutely a phenomenal person and you just like being around them? They're upbeat, they're positive, they're successful in life, and you just like standing next to them because they're so good, they're so nice. Not sugary Eddie Haskell nice, but real nice. That kind of nice where you like. And you think, oh my God, they probably grew up in a great house, and they went to high school and did well, and they graduated from college, and they got a master's degree, and they met somebody, a nice guy, and they married a woman, and they married him, and now they got nice kids, and kids don't have any drug problems. They don't have any, they're just great kids. Did you ever meet anybody like that? You kind of like you do want to stand next to them, but you kind of like, ooh, where did you happen? And then you hear... But then you hear their story. You hear their story, and they actually were in 7 foster homes. They dealt with alcoholism or drug addiction or porn addiction or some kind of an addiction. You hear their story, and they were in prison for a while. We have people who are living fabulous lives in this church who've been in prison for a while, and they're great people. What happened to them? How did they change that? How did they turn that around? You hear that story and you look at them in that new light and you think, what did you do? Well, here's what people say. Therapists, if you lined all the therapists and all the pastors up in the world and you said, well, how did that person turn their life around? They would tell you some version of this. They decided. They decided. That's how they did it. In essence, they're saying, I let my past remind me, but not define me. That's what they say. I'm not going to let what happened to my past make me the kind of parent I had. I'm not going to let my past make me the kind of worker I see around me. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let it inform me, but not define me in my life. I'm going to be a better spouse than what I saw in my house. I'm never going to make anybody feel like I was made to feel. I decided. That's what those people are saying. So to ensure next time and this time won't be like last time, we have to release the past so the past can release us. We have to release the past so the past can release us. And it all boils down to something you're very familiar with. If you've been to a church at all, you know this answer. And the answer is we must forgive. That's what we have to do. We have to forgive. Not condone, not act like it didn't happen. We simply have to forgive. Now, I don't have time to drill down on forgiveness today. So I have asked our ministerial intern, Tanya Beverly, to put together her phenomenal workshop called Forgiveness is for Me. Forgiveness is for me. It's going to be on November 16th. If you want to ensure this time and next time is better than last time on anything, get in there. Get in there and begin to work with Tanya. Because forgiveness does this. It allows us to leverage our lessons without lugging around the luggage. And that's important for us to do. Paul, in Ephesians 4, says, do not give the devil a foothold. Now, we don't teach devil here, but we do teach faulty thinking. We do teach separation thinking. We do teach the past, not seen through spiritual eyes, is just like the devil in our life. So when he says, do not give the devil a foothold, what he's saying is, maybe it was whoever, I don't know who trespassed against you. Maybe it was Bob. Maybe it was Sharika. Maybe it was Larry. I don't know who it was. Maybe it was Juan. I don't know who trespassed against you in the past. But you put that name in where Paul says, devil, you put Bob's name in there. Do not give Bob a foothold. Foothold simply means staging area. Some versions of the Bible call it, do not give the devil a staging area. Do not give Bob a staging area. Do not give your mother a staging area. Do not give your 6th grade teacher a staging area, because you're launching your life from your staging area. And when you do that, you can't reach as far as you need to be able to reach. Paul says something else. He says, let not your anger lead you into sin. Let not your anger lead you into sin. Two fabulous parts of this. One is, we know what sin is. Sin is the Aramaic term, which is an archery term, which simply means missing your mark. Don't let your anger help you miss your mark. He's also saying it's okay to be angry. And we need to say that in metaphysical churches more and more and more and more, so we don't have these perky little people running around and saying, oh yeah, I just smashed it. Oh yeah, I just got my car repossessed. That's good. It's all good, you know. Oh, good. No, we don't want that. It's okay to be angry, but don't let anger not lead you to sin against yourself. Don't let it miss your own mark. When you have those feelings, know that they're okay, but they can't begin to drive you. So I'm going to give you the homework now, and it's tough homework. I'm telling you, it's tough homework. Because I know you're not going to want to wait till November 16th to do all of your forgiveness work. You want to get started right now. Okay? So here is the way I want you to start. You pick a situation. I don't care what situation it is. Own your part. You see what the other people's part are. And instead of saying, I forgive Bob, you must begin to look at what it is that Bob stole from you by his actions, by his trespass. Bob stole my reputation. I forgive Bob for stealing my reputation. Bob stole my income because he fired me and it wasn't a good reason to fire. You must forgive Bob. Now, not for Bob. Who cares about Bob? Bob's gone. We're talking about yourself here. Bob stole my ability to tuck my own children in every single night. Now I got to only do it half the time. Bob stole that from me. You need to be as clear as you can possibly be to give forgiveness not to the person, but to that which was stolen from you, that which was taken from you. And that's the forgiveness work. Tanya will work with you more on that, but you can get started right now. You can begin to know what that feels like. We need that clarity. So remember, own it, rethink it, release it. Say that with me. Own it, release it, rethink it. Say it one more time. Own it, release it, rethink it. So let's take this message into prayer, knowing that there is only one power. It's the power of love. We need to give love. We need to receive love. We need to allow ourselves to receive love. Let it in. Knowing that the presence of God is who we are. And the sky is not even the limit. It goes way beyond that. There is no limit. No limit to love. No limit to joy. No limit to deep connection. No limit to adventure. I give thanks for that. I release this word into the law, and together we say, and so it is.